Business on Purpose podcast, episode number 63. Hey, Scott Beebe here on the Business on Purpose podcast. And the intro to this, the sound of this may sound a little different. I'm actually on the Boss Jock app on my iPad doing this. But what I had to talk about was so important, I didn't have time to sit down in the actual studio part of the podcast where we normally do the Business on Purpose podcast in front of that beautiful Blue Yeti microphone and all my setup and everything else. And so I thought I wanted to go live with this as quick as I could because I thought the information was really, really, really important. And so, hey, wherever you are around the world, thanks for joining me. It is always a delight to be able to spend this time with you here on the podcast. If you're mowing grass or you're flying in a plane or you're running down the road, whatever it might be, I'm just really, really thankful that you see the value to invest your time in doing business on purpose, where what we do is help liberate small business owners from the chaos of working in your business. And today I'm going to talk about something, and I'm going to do this monologue. Normally, if you're no stranger to the Business on Purpose podcast, you know we get to interview some awesome guests. But for the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be going monologue, but I'm going to be going monologue with a lot of the clients in my ear, because the information I'm going to share with you during this podcast, and I think it's going to take me one more just by virtue of time. I want to make sure that we break this up into a couple different elements because I've got some insight and some stories to share. Is I get a lot of this information from my one-on-one and group coaching clients. And so when I'm in these conference rooms one-on-one and we're knee-deep in vision and mission and values and systems and processes and follow-up and accountability, etc., I get a lot of this takeaway content. And I want to be able to share it with you. And so I'm going to take the next couple of episodes and share with you the 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring for small businesses. All right, so if you're a small business or a small business owner in particular, I want to give you 7 very clear, very proven steps to anxiety-free hiring, because the number one thing I hear, I ask this question a lot: what's the biggest headache you have in business right now? What's the biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle that you have in business right now? Without question, hands down, the number one response is employees. That's the number one response. I even had one business owner say, business would be great if it wasn't for the people. Now, he was just having a tough day, all right? But the reality is that we all have not only the responsibility, but we've got the privilege to be able to work with people. And at the same time, for your small business, there's really no way to scale your business. Even IBM's Watson, I don't know that can completely scale your business the way that having other people on the team can actually scale your business. And so that's why I want to spend a few minutes talking through the 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring for small businesses. By the way, before we jump in, if you need help in this area, it is at the time that this is going to be going live, end of September, beginning of October 2016, we are launching our next round of the 4 Steps to Business Freedom group coaching, where we actually take a group of 6 to 10 small business entrepreneurs. We put you in a group. It's all virtual. It's live. It's with me. I walk you by the hand as a group, step by step, through creating your vision, mission, values, and then the systems and processes necessary for which you can begin to hold you and your business team accountable. And so all you have to do is go to 4stepstobusinessfreedom.com. It's all spelled out, 4stepstobusinessfreedom.com. And you can read about it all there, and then you can also apply. This is by application only, because I want to make sure that everybody we have in the program is a good fit for not only where the program's going, but also for the other business owners that are going to be in there. All right, so let's walk you through the 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring for small businesses. And again, I'm talking about this because hiring can bring huge value to a business, and at the same time, hiring can be very expensive in the business. You need to know this. There's been data that's come out in the last few years that essentially says if an employee leaves your business for whatever reason, doesn't matter. If an employee leaves your business for whatever reason, they get fired, they decide to walk away to another bigger, better opportunity, if they retire, it's going to usually be at a cost to the business of somewhere around $3,000 to $25,000. And that's for somebody getting paid $20,000 to $40,000 a year. If you've got employees that are getting paid 40 plus, say 40 to 60 or 70, it's going to cost the business somewhere around $20,000 to $30,000 in turnover. If you've got a business where you've got employees that are making over $70,000 a year, and especially up into the 80s, 90s, and 100s and above, it's going to cost your business usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of their annual salary to 150% of their annual salary. I want you to think about that. They leave for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. And it's going to cost that to the bottom line of the business. That is a significant loss in total and overall revenue and time, just in time and expertise. And so it is well worth the effort for you to follow these 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring, to find the right person for the right role at the right time. All right, so let's jump in. Number 1, it's what I call mind the gap. If you're any stranger to the UK, especially if you're riding the tube in London, you'll hear something very familiar. Hey, mind the gap, mind the gap. Or you'll hear somebody with a cool British accent. By the way, we've got somebody from Ireland who's living in London, who's in one of our group coaching programs right now. And I told Stuart, I said, hey, I could listen to you read the phone book for 3 hours, and it would be fascinating for me. I love people with a British accent, an Irish accent, a Scottish accent. I don't know why. South African accent, Australian accent. There's just something so intellectually stimulating. I'm not quite sure why, but I've got an affinity to that, I'll be honest with you. And I even told the rest of the group, hey, don't be offended if I call on Stuart more than I call on the rest of you, just because I like to listen to people with that kind of accent. But anyway, you'll hear it. Mind the gap. Mind the gap. Well, what I mean in hiring is before you hire anybody, you need to make sure that you have got a real defined gap in your business. Not where you've got additional cash flow and you're going, hey, we got cash flow, we're doing pretty good right now, we're going to make it for the next few months, let's go ahead and bring some people in. Increase cash flow, increase revenue, that's not simplistic purposes to hire new people. Or you think, hey man, I'd like to have somebody that does this with no defined role. That's not a good reason to hire somebody. Or, and we make this mistake a lot in Western culture, is you'll see somebody and you think, my goodness, they would be a rock star to have on this team. Let's bring them on the team and then we'll find a slot for them. Guys, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, that works a minority fraction of the time. You need a rock star in order to do that. But guess what? Rock stars come with baggage. No offense for those of you who are rock stars, but rock stars tend to come with baggage. And so I tend to fall in line with, let's find a real gap in our business, because once we find the gap in our business, once we find that thing that we're having a challenge, a struggle to try and come back and to impact on, then we can begin to move to our second step in the anxiety-free hiring process. See, what we tend to do is we tend to start with people. I wish we could do this, I wish we could do that, instead of starting with the real challenge in your business. That leads us to our second step of anxiety-free hiring for small business owners, and that is step number 2, build a real job role. I want you to write out a real job role. I don't want you to go to Google and Google, hey, what's a sales role supposed to look like? Hey, what's an office manager role supposed to look like? Hey, what's a superintendent role or a controller role supposed to look like? No, I want you to write out a real job role. You know what a real job role is? It's a job role that's directly connected to the gap that you just found in your business. So when you stop quietly, you begin to look at the inside of your business and go, you know what? We really have a gap. We really have a need for somebody to match receipts to expenses. We have a need for somebody to reconcile bank accounts. We have a need for somebody to make bank deposit runs. We have a need for somebody to aggregate data into monthly reports. Now, some of you would hear that immediately and go, oh, you need a bookkeeper. No. Just wait. I'm not talking about titles. I'm talking about a real gap in the business. Don't start with people and don't start with titles. When you're building a real job role, what you're building is a job role that's never been built before. You're handcrafting a job role to your specific situation in your specific business. The role needs to be what your business needs and not necessarily what some other business has. Just because your buddy's business down the street has a so-and-so doesn't mean you need a so-and-so. Please Please, I beg you, resist making it look like one of those corporate legal documents that requires a PhD to translate. Don't do that. Don't just go online and find a sales role and then make a couple of keyword adjustments to it that sound like, hey, we need you to have aptitude in this and aptitude in this. No, write down the tasks that need to be done. And write down the tools that are going to be need to have in order to do the task. Listen, if you write the tools down and you write the tasks down, they know what they're going to need to have aptitude in. And so write down the details. Just because Acme Company down the street has a controller doesn't mean that you need a controller. And so a couple things when writing down your job role. I want you to be what I call person agnostic. What in the world does that mean? I don't want you to build a job role around a person. That's what we were talking about, those rock stars. That rarely works. See, you're the business owner. You run the business. You oversee the business. You have a unique passion for the business, which means you also have the freedom to build a job role around what you need that will push the business, your business, towards its ultimate vision. And by the way, if you want to learn more about vision story, it is a priority topic you need to understand if you're a small business owner. Just go to the Business on Purpose podcast, episode number 46. In fact, if you want to, you can listen to 46, 47, and 48, where I walk through vision story, why it's different than vision statement. I walk through what an actual mission statement should be like. And then I walk through the defined reality of unique core values. And so let me give you an outline of what I believe every effective job role should include. All right? So get out of your mind of what you find on Google. I want you to see what every effective job role should include. Number one, it should include a header. Who are you? What's the business? What's the role? But you only know the role after you've written down the task that make up the role. So don't start by saying, hey, we need a salesperson, so here's the sales role. No, we're going to start with the task, and then we'll articulate the actual name of the role. All right, so we start with a header of what that role looks like, and then come back and fill in the gap with what the actual title is. Second thing that every job role needs is a business mission and values at the top so you can reinforce those really, really powerful keywords, all right? So whatever your mission statement is, whatever your unique core values are, and again, go listen to episode 47 and 48 for that, you need to have those at the top of not only every role, but every document within the company that other people in the company use. Because every time that document's open, guess what it's going to do? It's going to reinforce the mission of the business, and it's going to reinforce the unique core values of the business. So every job role needs a header. Every job role needs the mission and values at the top to reinforce those keywords. The third thing every job role needs is what this role is going to be the single point of accountability for. I'll never forget this. One of my managers when I was with Pfizer, they told me, hey, I need you to be the single point of accountability for, and then named the task. And I thought, oh, okay. And it just kind of hit me. Wow, like this rests on me. And I want every role within your small business. It doesn't matter what capacity they play. It doesn't matter if they're a 1 hour a month role or a 40 hour a week role. I want every role to understand that they are the single point of accountability for something within your business. If it's your bookkeeper, it's a single point of accountability for day-to-day bookkeeping or day-to-day financial transactions or whatever. But that bookkeeper, he needs to know that he's the single point of accountability for that. If it's your some sort of business development or salesperson, she needs to know that she's the single point of accountability for this certain territory, for this certain geography. The buck stops with her. When you do this, you start to bake ownership of these roles within the actual job roles, and it is powerful. Wow. Fourth thing that every effective job role needs is a series of what I call big bucket items to processes. Big bucket items to processes. What do I mean? Well, let me go back to our bookkeeping example. If you had a role and this person was your financial transaction professional or whatever you want to call them, one of the big bucket items of the role is going to be bookkeeping. And then the processes underneath as a kind of a sub-bullet point are receipt reconciliation, transaction data entry, bank reconciliation. Those are three different processes within the role of bookkeeping. You might even have in there invoicing or invoice reconciliation or whatever. But you got that single point of accountability, and then you've got point number 2, bookkeeping, sub-process, receipt reconciliation process, transaction data entry process, bank reconciliation. Then you move to point 3, which is another big bucket item. So your financial transaction person, you also then want them to do, let's say, some office supply management. So now you're going, well, that's not financial transactions, is it? That's what I'm saying. You're building your own role. But if you have one person that's playing both of those, then you can put those in there. And so every job role needs a big bucket item or a series of big bucket items with the sub-processes that go underneath. All right? And so what I want you to do is build a real job role. Forget what a job role should look like. Instead, write it out based on what the business needs and the vision that you have. All right? It's your business. It's your privilege to be able to do that. So the first thing is mind the gap. Understand the real gap that you have in your business before you hire. The second thing is build a real job role. And in the Business on Purpose Mastermind, we actually have all of our templates loaded in there. And one of those is the job role template. It's a powerful way to get started on those job roles. Third thing, state your budget. All right? You need to work up a real budget for that role. And you need to ask yourselves questions like, how much time and freedom will this role offer our business? How much time and freedom will this role offer me? Sometimes you hire somebody to impact the bottom line, to increase revenue. Sometimes you hire people to impact your personal bottom line to free up time. You need to determine right out, is this a revenue increase or is this a time increase? What does this look like for me? You also need to ask the question, how will this role impact our revenue and our margins? Please take time to think about this, but don't overthink it. Go back, look at the numbers, and ask yourself, would this role free up more time to work on my business and cut the anxiety of constantly working in my business? Now, some of you are balking right now because you're saying, I've hired somebody before, but it didn't free up any more time. All I feel like I'm doing is babysitting. All right, we're going to come back to that in point number 7. But right now, mind the gap. Understand the need in your business. Number 2, build a real job role. Something unique and handcrafted to you and your business. Number 3, find your budget. All right, so that's the first section of these. That's the first 3 of the 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring for small business. Now, I've been accused of being a fire hydrant of information. So I want to go ahead and turn this into a couple of podcasts, all right? Because I want to be kind. But this is good stuff. Follow these techniques. If you need some help, if you need to be a part of a mastermind, we've got the Business on Purpose Mastermind. It's a powerful opportunity. Just go to mybusinessonpurpose.com/mastermind, or you can go directly to mastermind.mybusinessonpurpose.com. Either one, you can jump in to be a part of the mastermind. It's cheap, it's inexpensive, and you are going to get globs and globs of coaching, information, motivation, action, the push that you need to build this out. All right, so I'll see you next time right here on the Business on Purpose podcast as we take steps number 4 through 7 to the 7 steps to anxiety-free hiring for small businesses.